Somebody has an open mic because I can hear the song in the background. But anyway,
I think two of
let's talk shop with Russ. Glad to have y'all out here. Everyone who's out there in the chat tonight. And as of yet, we don't have our guest. So I'm not sure what's going on. So the show might be short and sweet. But yeah, we've sent him some emails and not sure what's going on. He is in, I think it's Seattle, Washington, if I'm correct. Is that right, Jim?
Yes, around there, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like 3 hours. Is it ahead of us? No, behind us. So
it's like 5 o'clock there now.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon there. So, but Frenzy Wicked Truth says, "Okay, I'm going to crochet on a Spiro now. You better be crocheting your butt off on my Spiro,
Russ. It's looking great. I've seen it.
Come on, let's snap to it, dear. Now let's don't take any time. Let's get that thing done. I'm patiently waiting. So
she can crochet while she watches. She does a good job at watching, and not as good as she doesn't watch. But anyway, I say that.
He got a body, head, and 2 half wings and a left wing.
And she's got a pumpkin too.
I want the whole damn thing. I don't want just a body, a head, and 2 half wings or whatever. You're taking too much time here. Oh, I guarantee you, if I was where she was at right now, I would probably get a whooping.
Oh,
is what my mama would do to me.
Right
She'd
now.
give me a whooping. I'd probably get a whooping right now.
Tongue lashing, Russ.
I'm so glad that she knows I'm just teasing. And yes, I'm just teasing.
Jeff Walsma wants to know if he can be your guest on making snowmen and Christmas trees.
Wow. Okay, I'll contact me, send me an email, and we'll see about what you got.
Russ,
making snowmen and Christmas trees. Are you turning them or scroll sawing them, or what are you making?
Will Russ at Simply Wooden Creations work?
Yeah, Russ at simplywoodencreations.com.
Okay.
That'll work. Oh, I do. I didn't bring it in here tonight. Oh, first off, I know it's an informal. Let's do this first.
Creations.com.
Let's talk to my sponsors, Devobal Technologies. For web design, development, hosting, visit devobal.com. FastCap, innovative products for the professional woodworker. Go to fastcap.com. Rockler, 60 years in woodworking. Create with confidence. Visit rockler.com. Bearwood Supply Company, your best choice for hard-to-find woodworking supplies. Go to bearwood.com. Klingspor, the sanding specialist, woodworkingshop.com. And Seiko, the scroll saw specialist, seiko.com. And if you don't mind, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, if you're a newcomer, I sure would appreciate if you just subscribe. The next thing is hit that little bell up there at the top. It'll inform you anytime I have a new video or a live stream. And last but not least, let's not forget the thumbs up. I love thumbs ups. So if you give me like 40 or 50 thumbs up, everybody gets $100. No, I'm just kidding.
You get $100, and you get $100.
You get $100. Everybody gets $100. Just kidding, but I sure would appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up. And if I win the lottery tonight, which is Saturday night in Florida, the lottery is playing, and you can prove that you give me a thumbs up, and I win the lottery, I will give you $100.
How the heck do you prove that? That's all I know.
I don't know how I can prove it, but
that's why you're getting $100.
Yep. So anyway, so that's it. And So, Brenda, describe yourself and take a few seconds because I'm going to go get something I don't want to show off. So, Brenda, tell us where you can find you.
I said to describe myself. Lord have mercy, am I on a date?
Number one, if we were to go out, what would be your most...
Well, how about if I just talk about my channel? I've got a YouTube channel and Facebook page, and over on my YouTube channel, I've got a lot of craft videos, and I've got some comedy videos. I've just come out with a new one that I've started a new little series, and it's called "And That's When the Fight Started." So you go over and watch that, and I'm still giving free advice. And on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I do a live stream there with a fella named Matt Haas.
Nice.
And we have a lot of fun there on the channel with that. So 7 p.m. Eastern, we'd appreciate if y'all join us, have a little fun there on the channel. So that's pretty much it. I do have an Etsy store, and I'm in the process of trying to get some more stuff there on Etsy for the Christmas rush. But lots of soap and stuff up there. So you can look it up, Brenda G's Designs.
It smells so good, that soap, Brenda, that goat's milk soap, almond soap. Oh my God.
I'm not going to say what I did last week because my wife got on to me. But anyway, go ahead, Paul.
Paul Corliss from Paul's Messy Workshop. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. And I cannot confirm nor deny that I'm paid for my appearance here tonight.
Yeah, Donald just hasn't been here long enough. Dixon.
Hi, I'm Dixon Hoffman. You can find me at hoffmansignsandDecals.com.
Jim Bashirs.
Jim Bashir's Driveway Workshop. I can confirm that I'm not paid for the appearance on the show, unlike Paul. Hey, there's Colin.
Hey, Colin.
Hey.
Better late than never, right?
That's all right.
Correct.
Hey, give us just a second. Al, go ahead and tell us where we can find you.
I can neither confirm nor deny also that I am getting paid for appearing as a panelist on the Simply Wood Creation Show. But I'm Al Forte, Odessa Woodworking and Maker Shop, Kilroy 79763 on Twitch. And if you look anywhere, you can find me as Kilroy 79763. I stream 2 p.m. on Sundays on Twitch. And I'm working on on building the USS Enterprise from the Eagle Moss series with a lot of lights and a lot of wires. And anyway,
that's pretty cool. It's been a lot of fun. And by the way, I want to also thank Jimbo for the awesome 30th anniversary. Yeah, I'm kind of jealous that he sent them to you and not me.
Magazines, look at that.
Yeah,
Jimbo,
I'm kind of jealous he sent them to you and not me. I'm like, what the heck? Am I just like a nobody here? I love Star Trek. I have all kinds of stuff too.
Anyway, Jimbo, this is a special live long and prosper to you, and welcome everyone to the Simply Wood Creation Show and our guest, Colin. Anyway, I'm done, guys.
Colin, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing really good now. I had my times mixed up, and then I realized, no, I'm on now. So here I am.
I thought I sent you the wrong link.
No,
You're in Seattle, Washington, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So it's like 5 o'clock.
That's right. Yeah, 5. What are we? 5:10 or whatever. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of a difference between time zones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've had some people that have been over in Europe, and it's like a 12-hour different time zone. So while we're at night here, it's like, 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning or something. Just weird. You wouldn't believe what it is. So
yeah.
Is it?
Well, we're glad to have you on.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
So your channel is woodworkweb.com?
Yeah, that's correct.
Now, is that woodworkweb.com? That's also a website, correct?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
That's the brand name for basically everything: Twitter,
Right.
Instagram.
So it's not only woodworkweb.com website, but it's woodworkweb.com for your YouTube channel.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. You have a net, net, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Same?
Yeah. I have all that stuff. Yeah.
It's shown on his webpage on the left-hand side. So if
Yeah.
anybody's interested in that.
And I'll try to put that in there tomorrow after the show. So
Okay, sure. Yeah.
You're kind of like a gray-haired gentleman. Can I ask you? I'm 63. How old are you?
I'm over 70 now.
Really?
Yay!
Wow.
For old, yay for the old guys.
Yep.
The old guys. Yeah, the old guys.
Yeah, you know what? You know what's crazy about when you with a few people that I know anyway, that when you don't like to reveal your age until you hit 70, and then you go, "Hey, I'm 70."
I made it. Yeah.
Well,
made it,
I beg to differ. I don't think men care about it as much as women. If you ask a woman, it's like slapping her upside the face. But with men, it's like, I'm like, I'm 63. My hair's turning gray. I wished it would just go ahead and turn white and get it over with. It's like halfway in between. But how long you been woodworking?
Oh, well, I don't have an intro, little intro video on my YouTube channel yet, but the family found some footage of me when I was 5 years old. They think it looks like I was about 5 years old. I was actually building something out of wood. I was sawing, and apparently I had some shingle nails and a hammer. And I think I discovered that watching my father a little bit, and probably my grandfather, but apparently I was making an airplane. So I was told. So I go back to preschool, and I was a self-starter then. Nobody showed me anything about it. Apparently, I just picked this stuff up and started using it because I'd been watching other people, and that's what kids do, right? They mimic other people, and that's how we learn. Yeah.
Well, you probably had somebody in your family, because now I'm a third generation carpenter.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, I tell them I started when I was knee high to a grasshopper.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a hammer and nails and a paintbrush, and ever since I can remember. I don't remember not having or been around that kind of thing with my father in that business. So you probably had somebody in your background that you just don't, is not really out there, that you probably picked it up on.
That's probably true. And I don't remember that clearly, obviously that far back, but my grandfather was, he was a blacksmith, and a blacksmith was like a person of all trades. You did woodworking and you did metalworking. And I don't remember him as a blacksmith, but it wasn't that long before I came along that he'd moved from being a blacksmith into more of a farm machinery, because I grew up in the central Canadian prairies, where it was a big farming community there. But what really gave me a lift, my family moved to the west coast of the continent when I was 14, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because where I lived in the prairies, little town, and all the little towns, you congregated in one little high school, and they had good classes, but you never had anything like, I'd only dreamt about being able to take things like woodworking and metalworking, things like that in school. We just didn't have that. So when I moved to the coast, it was a much bigger school, and I was able to take some industrial arts, and they offered everything. And I took a few classes of different things, but mostly I took woodworking. And I actually took 3, and I love the woodworking teacher. He was such a great guy. He
froze.
I thought it was me.
Had that much, so I moved to the coast, where it was much bigger, and I was able to take some industrial arts that were offered. everything.
There we are.
I think a few
There we go.
classes,
There he is.
woodworking.
Yeah. My
He's back.
screen went blank there. Anyway, so I actually had 3 years of cabinet making or furniture making. In my final year of school, I took cabinet making or furniture making. I took boat building. We actually built 2 boats in
that's
high
awesome.
school, a 14-foot runabout and a 16-foot boat. I also took house construction, and we actually built a house on the school grounds, which at the end of the school year was auctioned off and moved to a foundation. So I had such a really strong background, even in high school.
Yeah.
You can't go to trade schools now and get classes like that. It's just a phenomenal, and the school doesn't offer that any longer. It was just that sort of period of time that I was there.
You know, and we won't go into a long conversation on this, but that really is the problem in America. One of the problems in America is that in high school we had agriculture, and we also had shop classes where they taught kids to work on vehicles. They taught kids how to grow plants and everything.
Yeah.
They've taken that all out, and it's a shame in America today. Like I said, we don't want to go into that deep delve, but I will tell you that it's shameful for America to do that.
It's that's a universal thing. I also took useless things in school too, you know, like mathematics and English and stuff like that.
Hey, I took home ec. My brother told me take home ec. A lot of good-looking girls.
See,
that's what I did.
You know why?
For 1 year, I was the only second guy, only 2 guys with all those girls in home ec, and I loved every minute of it.
I took typing.
I still have the leather vest that I sold in home ec, a leather vest.
So, okay, let's get into this a little bit about talking about in your it's leading up to where you're at now. Talk about your earlier woodworking and how you've developed and where you're at today.
Now that I've told you what I did in high school, and it really gave me a good foundation for woodworking, naturally, you know, getting out of high school, everybody would say, well, what did you go into? Well, I went into photography, of all things. That was my career for the next 15 years. And I did everything in that industry. I worked in processing, film processing. I worked in studios. I shot weddings. I sold cameras. I had all sorts of things. And I finally, when I left it, I was actually a manager. I had a chain of, I think, about 10 stores that I was looking after. And then somebody came along, and these things happen in your life. People come along and they tap you on the shoulder, and you think, how would you like to come over and join me in this business? And at that time, 1985, that was the sort of the very formative years of computers. And I thought, gee, I think computers might be the way to go. So I ended up going from photography into the computer industry. And again, I did lots of things in the computer industry, and that's kind of where I ended my career. But what it led me to do when I was in the computer industry, towards the end of my career, I formed a company with some other people, and we were doing things like building websites and things like that for people, a bit of consulting. And one day, one of the partners said to me, you know, we have ups and downs building websites. You know, some days, some months we have good months, sometimes we have bad months. If we built our own website, we could generate money from ads and things like this. Now, this is back in late 1990s. So then it was decided, well, they asked me, what do you know? I said, well, I know woodworking. I said, well, what do you guys know? I said, well, we don't really have anything like that. So if you know woodworking, we'll build the website and you can write the articles and put things like that on it. So that's where WoodworkWeb, that's where it got its foundation from, was me in the IT industry. Now, where YouTube came along in a 2000, I think it was 2008. So we continued to build websites, and we generated revenue off our own WoodworkWeb woodworking site at the time. Then in 2000, I think it's 2007, a company called Google ended up buying another company called YouTube. And one of the things that Google said, we will give you a higher search engine ranking if you embed a YouTube video in your website. So again, they came to me and said, well, we don't know anything about photography. So why don't you go out and buy a camera somewhere and make a video, because you're the only one who knows woodworking. So make a video on woodworking and we'll embed it in the website and we'll get a higher search engine ranking. And literally that's where it all came from. Now, for me, the lucky thing was, at the time I was working on picture frames, and I developed this way. I don't know if other people had done it, but I developed this way of making sort of foolproof picture frames at the time using a technique. And
is that on a video? Because I need to know that.
That is my first video, was making picture frames.
I got to go back and watch it.
It's terrible. Don't go look at it. but
I have so much problems with picture frames. I swear to God. So I got to go watch that video.
That was the sort of stepping stone into where, and from there it led to more videos and so on. I didn't take it too seriously in the beginning because we couldn't even monetize. The whole thing was a big experiment. But the only person that I know who had woodworking videos earlier than me is the Wood Whisperer, Mark Spagnola. He's the only one that there might be others I don't know, but he's the only one that I know of that had woodworking videos earlier than me.
Yeah, I noticed. I went back and I went like, damn, he's been here for a while. I know you're old, but I didn't know you were ancient.
I am
been
old.
Here for a while,
I have been. Yeah.
That's great, really, though, but because you got in there. I won't say in the inception, but early in YouTube, and you established your channel. But people can't just establish a channel and not be good. In order for you to grow and be successful, you have to be good. And it's obviously you're good. Your channel's grown and everything else. And I watched some of your videos. And the second thing is you have to have the personality. When it comes forth to being able to do that, what you're doing on video, people, or YouTube, I should say, people have to have the personality. And Mark has a good personality, and your personality is great too, also. So I see where you're coming from, and you put 2 and 2 together, and you made 4, and you got a good thing going.
Well, I think luck has a lot to do with it too, and there's other things along the way. I look back and I go, well, the time that I spent in the photographic industry, that really helped me figure out. I understand cameras, I know how they work, I understand lighting, I know how that works. And then in the IT industry, there's a whole world out there of things that go on in the background that make websites and things more popular, what things that you can do. And Google doesn't tell you those things. YouTube doesn't tell you those things. You just kind of learn those things over time, and when you implement them, your channel just kind of grows. So I kind of, everything kind of led up to where I am now. I took 20 years of public speaking training, and that all helps. Now, that's the one thing of all the things I do, that's probably the thing that I love doing the best, is actually going out and talking to clubs in person and so on. So yeah, I like that.
One of the persons knows that even though you've done the woodworking for all this years, you have all 10 fingers, it looks like.
I do. I do. Yeah. Now I never take that for granted. I did a video not long, well, a couple of weeks ago or so, or a week ago, on that, and
we're gonna, at the end of this show, we have called Woodshop Confessions. So we're going to go into the nitty gritty and some of the stuff that you did that wasn't very educational.
Okay.
In the shop, so to speak.
Yeah.
So but that's at the end of the video.
Okay. Yeah, I've had a couple of those. Yeah.
Anybody have any seen any questions out there for Collins out there or Colin?
Looking through the chat.
I know somebody said something. Oh, Dan Ingy said 2 strokes, 3 heart attacks, neck, back surgery, COVID, 17 broken bones, but I'm still here at 64.
Wow.
And
on Monday.
Yeah. I'm like, well, damn, if you're still here after that, Dan Ingy, you need an award for the most damage to one person's body, and you're still hanging on, I think.
Yeah, that's great.
Colin, I got a question for you. You've got like over, when I looked, it was like 150 videos just on making jigs.
Oh, is there that many just making jigs?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think,
wow.
I'll look again, but I think the only person that makes jigs like you is Izzy Swan. So what, is that something that you just like to make, or you just look at a project and you go, man, I have to make something to make this project go faster?
It kind of started off a number of years ago. I noticed that people seem to like videos. Things evolve, everything evolves, right? And YouTube, the sort of the make thing. How many cutting boards can you make, right? How many videos on cutting boards can you make? And I noticed that I'd made a couple of videos on making a couple of jigs, and I also did did a video or two on tips and tricks. And I noticed that they got they seemed to, people liked them. I got good feedback from them. People liked that. But then, it's just like starting a little campfire. You put a little torch under it, and then people start saying, well, what about, can you make a jig that does this? Can you do that? What about maybe a jig that does this might be something? And that just kind of blossoms. Next thing you know, you've got your audience giving you suggestions on what you can do and what they like watching. So that's kind of where that evolved from.
Is that where you come up with most of your show ideas, is from feedback from your audience?
A lot. Yeah. I have such a great audience. They send me emails and contact me different ways. To be honest, it's getting hard to keep up with them now. Getting so much feedback now, which I love, but I'm sure people are looking and wondering if I'm ever going to get back to them, and some of them they've fallen off.
We had a question out in the chat from a guy named James Parker. He wanted to know if you do any type of turning at all.
I do not now. I have done turning, but I have a very small shop, and I just don't have enough room for it. And I finally gave up turning probably about 3 years ago. I just had a little lathe, a little 4-footer or whatever. And it just was something that it didn't hold the interest for me. I had so many other things to do, and I needed the room. So on a weak moment, I sold it to another person.
That's such a rabbit hole to get into.
I know.
Turning.
Yeah.
You pay more for tools than you do the lathe. It's crazy.
And you're not into CNC work, I see.
Well, I am.
Oh, are you?
If I can get around to it.
What have you got? Hey, I got one of those in my garage.
Yeah. So
good old XXL.
I do. Unfortunately, it's kind of fallen into a little bit of a hole like the lathe did, where I have so many other things to do that the CNC is becoming a holding area for other projects right now. So I need to rearrange my life somehow. I need to stop playing ice hockey.
If it's anything like my shop, it's a horizontal surface, and horizontal surfaces in my shop are dangerous.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I say, what kind of CNC do you have?
It's a carbide, Shapeco.
Shapeco 3.
I can't even say it now.
Oh, trust me, I started out. I'm kind of like you. I got into computers when they first back
Oh yeah.
the first inception back
Yeah.
in DOS and coding and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty well computer savvy and kept it with it through the years. So
Oh yeah, good.
So I have a CNC, and I'm involved also into 3D printing and have a laser now. So,
Yeah.
So for instance, I made this little gizmo on my laser.
Yeah.
So I play around with a laser. So in what you're doing, everything you say you have a CNC. Have you thought about bringing into your some of the stuff that you're doing, more stuff like 3D printing or laser and stuff into some of your woodworking to enhance it or do things with it?
I have done some. I do have a 3D printer that's not around here right now, but I didn't do very much with that. I have not done any lasering. I actually had a little. Well, they're really toys, the little tiny one. I did get one of those a long time ago, and I wanted something, an actual sort of production, if you will, or better, more than a small little toy 3D printer or laser, and that's where I finally ended up with this CNC, and I wanted to do things with this, and I still want to do things with this that are not making signs, because these are lovely sign making machines, but I wanted to make other things with them, and I have a list of other things that I want to do. What nobody seemed to explain to me when I was thinking about when I was looking at CNCs and making them, what they didn't tell me was, if you don't understand or you don't know how to draw well, because everything that I want to make, I have to draw, I have to create the plan for. I can't just buy it, and that's what takes the time for me. Is making the stuff that I want to make. Like I've got this lovely little nesting bench, nesting table. There's 3 little tables that nest together, little side tables. I want to make something like that, and it's really ornately curved on the ends, the gable ends of it, ornately curved, and it's a perfect thing for doing on the CNC. I tried to draw it. It's like after 2 hours, like, I don't like the look of it, and I need to come back to this later on. So that's my Achilles heel, is drawing stuff that I want to make.
We have a
We've
question
got a few
out in the chat. Do you do scroll sign?
I have done, but I don't. I'd have to say no to that. I have a scroll saw, so I play with it, but I don't do much with it. No.
Oh, shame on you!
I know.
No, the reason I say that is I bought my first scroll saw in probably 79 or 80. So I have scrolled for 30 plus years. So
Wow.
I'm real big into scroll sawing.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Not so much that I want to let the laser or the CNC do it. Don't get me wrong. There was another thing that somebody put out there. Have you ever done any kind of wood turning?
Have I done any kind of wood turnings?
Yeah, turning like bowls.
Yeah. I've turned bowls. I've turned some bowls and a few spindles, but I've sold my lathe 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm not doing any more lathe work, and I don't have any immediate plans on getting another lathe right now, but who knows, that might change sometime too.
Can you please elaborate on that? Did you just not find it interesting, or why did you not get into turning that much?
Well, I have a small shop and I have limited space, and every time I wanted to do turning, I had to bring the lathe in from another area and set it up, sort of anchor it down and sort of set up the whole thing. It's not like you can walk over to a bench and start turning and doing stuff. No, I had to set up the whole thing. And that got tedious, and it was easy. It's so much easier to go, oh, well, I'll do that later on. I'll come back to it or something. Yeah. And then it sits around and it sits around. And I just finally said, I might as well get rid of it. I need the space for other things. So,
no, I understand. And that's totally understandable. But Because if it becomes where you can't walk up to it and have an enjoyment, where you have to go this hour ordeal of getting it set up, then it's no longer enjoyment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I understand that. I would like to say something, point something out. Steve Good is out, and he's a good friend of mine. He is a scroll sawer. He is the scroll sawer. Steve Good is out in the chat, and I'd like to say hi to Steve Good. And he said his wife is she's doing better, but she's still in a lot of pain. I'm so glad to have you here tonight, Steve. He's a very, very close friend of mine. We've known each other for years. And his wife had to have some back surgery done. She's been in a lot of pain here recently. So good to see you, Steve. Good.
Steve has a question for Colin too. Steve had a question for Colin too.
Is that Steve Good, the scroller from Eastern U.S.? I've watched. I
he's
don't know Steve,
Steve Good. Actually, he was in Kentucky.
Yeah,
and had been in Kentucky for years, and he moved back recently within the last month or so to his home state of Indiana.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'd like to have Steve Good as a next door neighbor because he's the only person I know that chased away somebody who came stealing parcels on his doorstep.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did that.
Steve
that
Good.
was a video. That he did that video. Yeah.
I know Steve Good. Yeah. I know.
He actually had a question too, Russ.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking for his question. Where's his question?
Well, he said, did you ever imagine he said you're getting close to 100 million views. Did you ever imagine that when you started?
No. Yeah. No, never dreamt of it. Yeah. I was. Yeah, I think it's 88 million views now.
That's cool.
Yeah,
a lot of views.
Yeah, I missed that question. That was way back before when I saw him when he popped in. 100 million views. You're getting close to 100 million views.
Yeah. I've got 88 million and something right now.
Well, tonight's show is going to be kind of real quick, because Collins has to go because we don't want to talk to him anymore. Really, 100 million views.
Yeah, well, it's coming up to that. I don't know how long it'll take to get there. I'm not sure how many million I get a month.
That is absolutely, my friend. And I would like to call you my friend, even though we've only just met. But
yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely fantastic, man. 100 million views. You know, that just blows my mind away. So, and it doesn't blow my mind away because I didn't have a lot of time this week to watch. I started watching some of your videos, and you have a good presentation, so it doesn't actually blow my mind away due to the fact that, I can see why. I can see why watching some of your videos and you've been on. It's the longevity of it also. So, congratulations.
Yeah, I've been around for a while.
Yeah, you've gotten old too.
I have gotten old. Yeah.
I've got a question for Colin.
Wait. Yep.
Colin, do you have a show on Saturday night with a panel and paying members on the panel? Just wondering, asking for a friend.
Yeah. No.
Okay. All right.
Oh, we'd love to have you as a panel member.
Steve Good said that Social Blade predicts that you will hit 100 million views in 10 months.
10 months.
Oh, really? Oh,
wow.
Well, thanks, Steve. I need to look that up. Yeah, no, that's 10 months. Wow. Okay.
Steve, like I said, him and I have been friends. We actually had the opportunity to meet. I don't know how many years ago it was, 5 or 6 years ago, but we've been friends forever, and we're kind of like internet friends, and we know so much about each other.
Yeah.
But there was a woodworking show in Atlanta, and we both went to it, and that was the first time we actually had got to meet each other.
What year was
And
that?
had a
Because I
good-
went to one of those shows in, I think it was 2017, but I'm not sure on the date.
I don't remember the first year it was.
Yeah.
Hell, you've got a better memory at your age than I do at my age, so but I don't remember. But I remember that first year where we met there, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
that we got to meet each other.
It's a good show down there too. I like to go back.
It was, and unfortunately, and I know everybody's going to go like, "Oh yeah, you're going to mention the COVID thing," but unfortunately, COVID kind of put a stop to it.
Yeah,
it
has
had
for the
been
time
doing
being anyway.
Yeah, it had been doing so great. A lot of the YouTube people had started converging on the Atlanta show because it became kind of like the big thing, and it would be nothing to have close to 100 YouTube people converge on the Atlanta show. Maybe I'm oversaying that, but I know a lot of people went to the Atlanta show that were YouTube people, and I got to meet a lot of good people there and everything. Had a good time, but
I don't think 100 would be out of line.
Is that right?
Yeah, there were a lot of people there.
There were a lot of people there. There were.
I think I met 2 or 3 while I was down there. Certainly not 100. Yeah, there wasn't too many other YouTubers.
I met people from all over we had one guy from, I'm trying to think of his name, and he was over in Europe somewhere, and he would fly over here.
Jimmy Page? Yeah, Jimmy Page, right?
Huh? Oh, Jamie Page was from either England. Or yeah. Now this guy was Frank something. Anyway,
Simondl. Oh yeah, he's he's like just south of Austria in.
He would come over here. I mean, we had people from around the world that came to. Yeah,
he was south. I'm sorry.
Liechtenstein or something. Yeah.
Steve says the Atlanta show
was 2017 when we actually met each other, and we'd known each other for like 10 plus years before that. So.
Aussie Man would like to know if you have anything there that you can show us that you've made.
I don't think you're prepared.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, I'm not prepared. I did the reason I'm looking around here, I don't really have too much. I did a talk. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, something called Men's Shed. It's an association. It's a little bit like it's a cross between a makerspace and a woodworking guild, where and it's essentially for retired men, and it gives them a place where not only can they do woodworking, but it's also a social event for them. But I did a talk to them a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that I was showing them was my little table saw bowls that I made, and those are done with a adjustable dado blade. There we go, and that's what it looks like. But what I did do with that,
he went by too quick.
There we go. It's still here. That's just a spalted wood, a couple pieces glued together, and you can see the inset there. But that's round all the way through. And then I took some end grain like a log, and you can see that you can actually do the same thing there. This one was kind of an experiment, but you can see the burning that, of course, you get with end grain.
Now this was done with on the table saw.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
I noticed that in the past that you do a lot of your own milling. Is that wood that you milled yourself?
I don't do my own milling, but I have people that I know that have mills. So I collect logs from time to time. Sometimes they're on my own property. I don't have that much property, but sometimes I have to bring down a tree. And so one of the ones that I brought down was a spalted tree, a spalted alder, actually. I don't have any wood from it. Well, this is wood from it here, that spalted alder there. Beautiful wood. But yeah, I do get logs from time to time and get them cut up. I'm when you get 70, it gets harder to do that because you have to air dry the wood for, however thick you cut it, you have to air dry the wood for a year, 2 years, and then you have to figure out a way of kiln
Actually,
drying it
are
or
you
something.
thinking that when you put the wood up that the wood might take longer to dry than you're going to live?
That's
I-
my fear. My fear is that the wood will still be wet and I won't be here to use it anymore. It'll be
Exactly.
dry.
There you
Yeah.
I put mine in my will so that my son can have it.
Yeah. Colin, do you know Steve Carmichael?
Yes, yeah, Steve Carmichael I met at the Atlanta show briefly. That I think it was
Actually,
2007.
and so he's out there in the chat, and he
Steve.
says hi.
Yep.
He says it's easy to get to our Atlanta airport in most places, and he said hi, Colin. So yeah, it's Atlanta. I actually, people have a lot of. I've heard a lot of bad things about the Atlanta airport. In all sincerity, because it's kind of like a hub for the southeastern United States.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you, I've been in the Atlanta airport, I don't know, 20 times, give or take a few, and I've always had good success in the Atlanta airport. They've always, people been nice and had good, but anyway, yeah. So
honestly, the people in Atlanta were just, I can't believe they were so nice. Kansas City was the same, super nice people. The Atlanta airport, it's really well laid out, but if for the first time when you go there, if you haven't looked at where it is, we wandered around for half an hour trying to figure out where to get the car rental. Nobody told us that you have to go outside the building and take a train ride for 20 minutes.
Yeah. And the tram is
the first time I cussed Atlanta. The second time I cussed Atlanta. The third time I finally figured it out and said, you know what? They were actually kind of smart because all these trams go back and forth and everything. So yeah.
It's well laid out, but if you don't know all that stuff, I know this. The next time I go there, it's going to be, this is a piece of cake. We know where everything is.
I've been there. I've been there. Like I said, I've been through it probably 15 or 20 times. So now I know where to go and what to do. So I would like to point out somebody, Mike Morris from Seiko, Seiko Scroll Saws.
Okay,
they're one of my sponsors, and I have a Seiko scroll saw. And just to put a little kick out there for Seiko, yes.
Yeah.
If you need a scroll saw, go to SeikoScrollSaws.com. They are a fantastic. I have one, and I love my Seiko. So just to put that out there for Seiko Scroll Saws. So thank you, Mike, for watching us over there on Facebook. And by the way, we're simultaneously broadcasting on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So we're going through Restream. That's where we're at. So yeah, when I first started out, like I said, I started out with scroll sawing. I was with my daughter. She was born in 1979, so I don't know if it was when she was 79 or 1980. When I went, it was the 79 Christmas. No, I was holding her. She was like a toddler, so it had to be the 80s. She was born in 79. She had to be the 1980 Christmas. We were going through Sears, and I walked through and the woodworking, since I'm a woodworker, and the woodworking section, and they saw this they had the scroll saw sitting there in the middle. I've told the story over and over, and I saw it. I asked the guy, what the hell's this? And he told me what it did, and I looked at it, and I bought one. I think I paid like $80 for it, give or take $1 back in that era. And I took it home, and I started cutting stuff with it. And and here I'm talking about, I'm a framer carpenter. I'm cutting 2x4s. We're framing, we're building houses. I'm not an intricate person in cutting and woodworking at all. And as soon as I sit down and started using it, I fell in love with it. And we're talking about that was in 1979 or 80,
Wow.
and I've been scroll sawing ever
Yeah,
since.
yeah.
So I've
Oh,
never
that's
stopped.
marvelous. Yeah, that's that's how woodworking should be. Where when you find your niche in something that you just want to keep on doing, that sort of thing. I know turners are the same thing. My brother's a
Yes.
turner, and he I think he had 2 or 3 lathes at one time, and he just loves turning, and he's good at it. He does other things, of course, but he's
I
primarily a
thought, why
turner.
would you have 2 or 3 lathes? Then I realized after I bought my first lathe, right, and I started turning myself years ago,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you have one set up for different things, so you don't
yeah,
have to
yeah,
change the components.
yeah,
Yeah, this one's for bowls, but this one's for pins.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Hey, Colin, that jig you made to do the table saw bowls,
Yes,
do those magnets
it
work
does use
really
it.
well?
They do work really well, and I'd made a jig to do this years and years ago, and in fact I think the first jig I made this was probably 15 years ago, and I've made other ones since then. And more recently, the problem with the first jig, I'm right-handed, and when you have to, of course, this thing is sitting on your table saw upside down on the blade, and you have to crank the blade up slowly up into it and turn it around. And I like to hold that with my left hand and crank up with my right hand, but I can't do that because the first jig that I made, it sat on the fence, or it connected to the fence, so I used to have to hold it with my right hand, and it just wasn't as comfortable. So this one I redesigned so I could make it for whatever side you want to crank it up on, and use mag switches to do it. So yeah, it worked great. I was really pleased with it. I don't know what gave me the idea to use magnetic switches for that, but something. Yeah.
How do you know how far you can go up in the bowl with the blade?
Well, that's actually pretty easy, because when you look at a adjustable dado blade, it has a big hub. They have a big hub in them, so you can't go above that hub. So about the deepest you can go is maybe 1.5 inches, and you have to be careful, of course, when you get close, when you get deeper in, you're taking a much bigger bite, so you have to go the last little bit, you have to go much slower, because you're taking a lot more wood off each time. But yeah, probably about 1.5 inches, not a lot. But what gave me the sort of re-clued me into it, another subscriber sent me a note. He asked me something about table saw bowls, and then he went on to say, I think he said he made, I forget the number now, but something like 230 or yeah, I think he said he'd made 230 of them in the last couple of years, and he called them catch-all bowls. I don't know if he was selling them or giving them away, but and they're perfect. I have one now. I don't know. Well, you probably can't see it on the end of my bench here. It's a catch-all right over on the workbench there, right where my finger is there. It's just kind of hiding behind a box there, but it's a catch-all bowl for nuts and bolts and screws that I'm working with, and I just put them in there, and I know where they are.
We had somebody that
Maker.
let's see, Leonard.
Have you ever heard of Maker 238 Deloach?
No.
Have you ever heard of the swim pactor?
Oh my God. That is an awesome swimming pool.
He took a trash compactor and made a swimming pool out of it.
All right, you've got to go check out his channel. He took a trash compactor, like Brenda said, to make a swimming pool out of it. But
yeah,
anyway,
wow.
he's been on my show, and he's a great guy.
Yeah,
and he goes, "We love you, Colin. Make on, brother." And that was his comment.
Oh,
so.
wow. Well, I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, we love Maker 238 Deloach too. I watch his channels. It'll pops up in my Facebook page every once in a while. And I'll watch some of his, and
I jot that down.
He's a great guy. Yeah, let me put it this way. I would tell you right now, if you want to invest money into his channel, because I think this guy's going to be one of those that will get up to to actually your mark, Colin. I'm thinking he's headed up.
Okay.
I watch his videos and he's really good.
There's some very innovative
fun.
people online. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
very amazed at what some people come up with. Just amazing. Yeah.
Well, some of the things that I went through some of your videos, and some of the things that you do are kind of like, in that aspect, amazing, because as long as you've been doing it, and as long as you've been woodworking, you're bound to come across some ideas and some things that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah.
And then you actually put them on video, and so that's totally understandable. And
Yeah.
that is like the wow impact is like, wow, how did he do that? Or why did he do that?
Yeah, sometimes those things pop into your brain. It's often from not necessarily desire, but sort of need. Like you can see it over here, my router table over here, and most router tables come with a whatever it is, 1-inch MDF, and I've had 2 of them now, and both of them sag in the middle, and they. We all understand why they sag.
Yeah, because it's a piece of crap MDF.
Well, it's MDF, but the problem is they put vinyl on the top and nothing or something else underneath. And what happens, especially where I live, it's quite humid, so moisture gets into these things. And just like a book, when you get a book, any kind of a book with a soft cover, like this is a screw book, but they always curl like this, right?
Yes.
When they got a plastic cover, but a cardboard. And the reason that they curl is because the front of it is plastic. It can't move. It's coated with plastic on top, but the cardboard can still absorb moisture. So as it tries to expand, it goes like this. And the router table, of course, does the same thing. So mine had I call it a sag, but it isn't a sag. It's the edges that lift up. So I went out and talked to a couple of machinists and some buddies, and decided to make my own steel deck for my router table, which as I was making it, I was thinking about all of the jigs and things that I could now put on a router, because I can use the mag switches on there now that I wouldn't have been able to do before. So, so that was a kind of born out of a need to renew the top, and I didn't want to put yet another MDF top on it. So, yeah.
And you said you took it to somebody and they made it for a couple $100.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Local machinist. Yeah. I discussed with him the thickness. He kind of thought I was a little bit thin. I went with 1/4 inch. He thought a little bit thicker would have been better, and it wouldn't have hurt anything. It would have weighed a little bit more. But then I told him that I had supports underneath it, so it should lie flat. And then he reminded me, all these things come off rolls of steel. Like, manufacture steel in sheets. It's a big roll, and so may not be perfectly flat. And this one is it. He said, "I'll pick the flattest piece that I can find for you," and it's not 100% flat like even like MDF. You can look at it and go, yeah, there's a kind of little tiny bit of I guess it's like a wave or something. It's not absolutely perfectly flat, but it's so much better than what I had before. It's like 100% better than what it was before. So, yeah, so that was an interesting improvement. I don't know anybody who's ever done anything like that.
Hey, Colin, Leonard Davis wants to know, how has technology changed how you do your woodworking?
Technology is almost every day. There's things that come along, digital things that change how you do woodworking, but people come up with ideas on how you do woodworking. Let me show you. Honestly, one of the things, the one thing that absolutely changed woodworking for me, I don't know if I have minor dyslexia or not, but for years, I've already mentioned that I'm right-handed. And for years, when I'm doing woodworking, the first thing I do is pick up a pen in my right hand because I'm right-handed, and I pick up the tape in my left hand. And if you go and look at all of your tapes, and as soon as you pull them out like this, all the numbers are upside down. And for years, I would be going, oh, well, that's 8.5 inches or something. And I'd go and I'd cut the board and I would cut it wrong. And of course, I didn't make mistakes all the time, but I made enough of them that it was so completely annoying. And then I'd look at it and I'd look at the numbers upside down and say, I cut that wrong. And it wasn't until I actually turned the tape the right way that I go, oh, well, it's an inch short. Now that I see the numbers, I see what I did. And one day somebody said to me, you can buy tape measures where when you hold it in your left hand, like this one, all the numbers are the right side up. And I went, wow. So I went out and bought one. And honestly, I instantly quit making mistakes. I know that sounds crazy, but I did because the numbers were the right side up for me.
Yes.
In fact, I can tell you, last year I made 2 mistakes all year, and I know that because I was incredulous, like, wow, I made a mistake. And I had to go back and look at it and measure and go, wow, I made a mistake. And I haven't made one of those for ages and ages. But a little thing like this.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And they need to explain that it depends. See, now I'm ambidextrous. It doesn't matter which way I can write my name with both hands or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But I do find myself predominantly right-handed, but it doesn't matter which way. But I understand exactly what you're saying, because if you pull it from one way or the other, you're going like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah. And for some reason, and I don't know if it's because we read from left to right or if that has anything to do with it, but every now and again, more often than I care to think about, I would measure something and cut it and it would be too small. It's like, oh, what did I go and do? And you turn the tape around and like, so now you've just wasted, a piece of wood that you got to try and put it in.
I hate when you buy the tape measure and it has the millimeters on one side and you go like, what the heck is that?
Well, in Canada, we're actually metric. We're like you, we're ambidextrous.
Well, I understand that. But I'm a redneck Floridian, so I have no IQ as to what the damn metric system is. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
mine is 32nd, 16th.
In
8
building
quarters. I don't go with that. Millimeters and centimeters and decimeters and whatever.
we use inches, feet and inches in building stuff here too. Yeah.
Actually, I have really since I have started with the I will say this much. I've learned so much in the last, I would say, 6 years, maybe 6 or 8 years, 5 or 6 years. Anyway, when you start dealing with 3D printers and stuff like that, and then you start dealing with the lasers and stuff like that, you can throw the inches out the window.
Oh, yeah.
Millimeters are so much easier.
Yeah,
they are.
And so now I am actually at 63 years old and teaching, and it's been going on for years. Don't get me wrong. Actually, I started it probably 3 or 4 years ago. I'm actually starting to realize the need to learn the decimals. 3 months. I can tell you, like 3 millimeters is like 1/8 of an inch. So 5 millimeters is like 1/4 of an inch. So I'm starting to get that in my brain and learning it. It's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy. Because the first thing when I do in design now, I pull up a little scale on. I have 3 monitors. On the left one, I pull it up, and that says inches to millimeters. So if I get in trouble, I go over there and punch it in, and it tells me what I need to know.
25.4.
Yeah. Colin,
Yeah.
what do you like to work better when you do woodworking, in metric or imperial?
Oh, I work at Imperial. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I buy sheets of plywood or 4x8 sheets of plywood. I buy
Yeah.
2x4s and all that stuff. But we started off. We bounce back and forth because if you're driving anywhere, you're driving in kilometers or kilometers, and temperature is in Celsius. It's not
Yep.
Fahrenheit. So we bounce back and forth. So we don't know whether we're one or the other, and most of us in Canada end up using both. I go to the grocery store, I order, if I have to buy food by the weight, I buy it by not ounces, what I can't even think of what the other one is, but
Kilogram?
yeah, kilograms. Yeah. So we bounce back and forth. We have a very clunky system now.
Yeah.
I've worked for a German sensor company for 25 years almost now, and I just kind of find it hard to go back to English. It's been meters and millimeters and stuff like that for so long. It's hard to go backwards.
Yeah. It is easier to work with, but when you've, like me, if you've grown up with feet and inches, I don't have any problem with feet and inches, dividing it in half or thirds and all that. So, but it's whatever you get used to, I think.
Yeah, it's weird. You go to like Home Depot to get plywood or something like that, and it's like 30 seconds or something like that. So you look at it and you think this is probably coming from China, so it's actually millimeters.
Well, that's when we first went metric, that was a big problem with the builders, is converting from what was feet and inches, and the sheets of plywood were still being made 4 feet by 8 feet, but now they were whatever millimeters by X millimeters, and the same with the thickness, and that got to be a real bone of contention with them, and it just kind of by osmosis, it just kind of went back to feet and inches, and that's what it works as now.
Well, here's the point. I was born and raised as a redneck, a Florida Southerner. We were taught inches and feet. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you've been raised and born into that, and then now you're in your 60s, and you've decided to venture out into the 3D printing and laser and other things, and they start now, it's all developed on the metric system. It takes you, it's a whole different ball game, a whole different learning curve, and it takes you a while to start really understanding it. Like I said, I've been dealing with this for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, and I'm starting to learn now, but it would have been a whole hell of a lot easier had they taught me this back when I was in
I know.
It was easy.
Yeah,
it was easy for me because I learned on the Andy Griffith show, Ernest T. Bass, how to count.
If I'd been taught this years ago, but early, when you take this old man and try to tell him, it's a learning curve for me. The biggest thing that I rely on, and thank God for internet. Like I said, I have 3 screens on my computer. When I start to work on something like that, I pull up my left screen is a place where it is conversion from inches to millimeters.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah.
As soon as I'm trying to develop something, I'll go like, all right, I want this a 1/4 inch. I'll go over there and type in a 1/4 inch. Okay, that's so many millimeters. You know what I'm saying?
It's millimeters.
Yeah. I always remember 25.4. I just multiply everything by
25.4, man.
Yeah, you got it.
So anyway, so that's my learning curve, and it's helped me some now, because there is a difference. Because I'm going to tell you, I went the other day, and it really was upsetting, because I went in and bought a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, and it said 1/4 inch, but I brought it back home, and it wasn't a full 1/4 inch. It was down to the 3 millimeters. There was
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah.
A difference. So now when I'm cutting something that I want, I'm making I'm having my laser cut something that I want it to precisionally
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a big
That's
difference.
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, especially CNC or laser, you need to make sure that you have that set
Yes.
up like
So
that.
you need a pair of. I have 2 or 3 pairs now. I bought them digital calipers.
Yeah.
So before I start making, if I'm going to make a design in this wood, I will actually caliper it and make sure the thickness of it before I put it into the program. And that's something we have to be aware of, because
of course, plywood's a bit of a nightmare that way anyway, because according to the Plywood Association, a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood never wants to be more than 3/4 of an inch. So it's always something less, unless you're buying it. There's 3/4 inch plywood coming in to North America from offshore, and they're claiming it's 3/4, but they're actually manufacturing it as so many millimeters, and that's like what you've bought. Yeah. So it's a whole other kettle of fish out there. Yeah.
And you go to the box store and they try to convert that over into imperial. So like I said, they'll get like a 27, 30 seconds is this and that. Yeah. And just tell us what the millimeter value is for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And we'll go from there. Because if you're going to draw like a cabinet or something, you need to know what that is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Brian Warner over on Facebook says, I could not survive without the converter app on my phone. You're exactly right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he pointed out the 1/4 inch is actually a 5 millimeter. So I mean,
that's what you
trust
said.
me, I'm not an expert in this, but I do use it's on my phone. I totally agree. In other words, another thing that is a good that a lot of people understand is board feet. Board feet, if you go to buy from a lumber mill, is totally different than just length time width.
Yeah.
So if you're going to buy like 5 board feet of something, so you need to understand. And I have an app on my phone that I can tell how many board feet.
Yeah.
That you're getting.
There's some really good apps for your cell phone for that. I mean, there's some that'll tell you what kind of wood you have.
Yeah, because when you buy,
like
you have a piece. You look at this mahogany, and it's like 10 inches wide, but it's 3 inches feet, and it's 8 feet long, and they say $3.85 a board foot. So you're thinking like, oh, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So that app does help when you type in all that, and then you go, oh, okay, that's $85 for that piece of wood, right?
I know. Yeah, I know. I went through that wording actually.
Well, let me, Collins, we're going to ask you something here. We always do a thing at the end of the show, and it's called Woodshop Confessions.
Yeah.
And the Woodshop Confessions is blood and guts. If you cut your finger off, or drill through your hand, or do some. I'll give you a prime example. A guy said one day he was holding a piece of wood in his hand. He had a brand new bit, and he put it on his drill and went to bore a hole and went right into the palm of his hand.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're looking for Woodshop Confessions.
Woodcops.
Yeah, Woodcop.
The more blood, the better.
We're going to be the wood cops here.
Yeah.
And we're looking for the wood cop confessions. So,
well,
what have you done that is just like, wow?
I can only think of 2 of them. I've had, I don't know how many slivers and cuts. I get cuts. I go to the wood store. I always like to feel what the wood feels like. You can look at it, but you always like to feel it too. But in my workshop, I can only think of 2 times that I've had something scared me, and one of them was on my bandsaw, and I was actually cutting some round pipe. I don't even remember. It was hard. I think, what do they call schedule 30 or
Schedule
something really.
schedule 80. Schedule 80.
80, yeah.
80's the thicker.
What was I
PVC
what I
pipe.
was making with it? But I was going to cut it on my bandsaw, and I wasn't holding it very tightly. And when I hit the blade on my bandsaw, it flipped. It started spinning, and it flipped out of my hand. It scared the devil out of me. I didn't get hurt or anything, but that was a very scary,
Yes.
very moment for me.
Hold on. The reason I'm laughing so hard because I did the same damn thing. I had a piece that was like 1.5 inches, and I decided to cut it, and so I just leisurely pushed it in the blade, and that sucker just took off.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Yeah. Then I did not quite the same, but a similar thing, but with I don't remember what it was. It was some round doweling or something on my sliding miter saw, and I was going to cut that, and it spun out too. So I'm very aware now.
Wow.
Of cutting anything round on tools, round tends to want to spin. So, but other than that, I just have not
a lot of
had-
stitches. In other words, in
No,
woodworking?
never had a stitch from woodworking.
Wow.
Never drilled a
Well,
hole.
I
in
want to tell you
anything.
this. After every confession, I go, bless you, that you will no longer have any more. But if you've never had stitches, it's like, what the heck?
Yeah,
No metal
Well,
plate or
bless you.
nothing in your head?
Bless you
No,
anyway,
nothing in my head.
You know?
Yeah.
Bless you anyway that you will no longer have any of
Yeah,
these.
no,
Well, we're fixing to call it a night. It's like 9:20. We've been on here, so
I want to thank everybody for being here, and again, my apologies for coming on late and
that's no problem.
figuring out the time thing. So it's been lovely being here, lovely meeting all of you. I do watch your show. I don't watch every episode, but I do watch your show. So it's been great to be here.
You added a whole new light.
Wow, this is everybody out there. Collins watches my show.
Yeah, you've added a whole new level of professionalism to this show.
Yeah, trust me.
I'll never
We thought
watch
we
my
were
computer
redneck- We
again.
thought we were redneck know-hows. Now we really actually scored a notch, actually 2 or 3 notches up on the totem pole. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
And it's nice to have an old guy on too.
Yeah.
Oh,
But you know
hell,
what?
he's
I
ancient.
still play hockey at least 2 times a week. Ice hockey
That's
2
great.
times a week.
No
So,
way.
I get
That's
my
cool.
Wow.
exercise. Yeah, I'm a big bicycler
Wow,
too. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
All
Just
right.
don't buy no green bananas.
Well,
And I don't
Collins,
buy green bananas.
Collins, thank you so
Okay.
very much. And you
Thanks
know what?
again.
Yes.
If you would like to come back on in the future, we'd love to have you.
All right. Yeah. Well, we could do that sometime. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So we really appreciate you being on tonight,
Okay.
and thank you all for being out there. Sorry if we missed some of your questions, but we've had Dan Inge from Dan Inge Woodworking, Chris Nealand, Maker 238 Loach, Brian Warner has been over there talking to us on Facebook. Thank you for being on Facebook. Leonard Davis, James Parker. Anybody else want to holler out to anybody that you see? Aussie Man,
Chris Nealand.
Chris Nealand,
Yes. Some drive-by workshop guy. I don't know.
Drive-by
Michelle
Workshop.
and,
Well, I don't know who the heck he is. That Brenda G's Designs person, I have no clue. Why is she hanging out there?
Lady Frenzy Wicked Truth. Alex.
Yes,
Apple-
Lady
Apple-
Frenzy Wicked
Yeah,
Truth. She is making me she's a crocheting knitting type of person, and she's making something for me. So she was on my show about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I commissioned her to make something for me, and so she's making it.
Making sawdust.
Lynn's Crafted Wood Signs is on there.
Rick St.
Leonard
Louis.
Davis, Dennis Meek. All these people are out there and have been out there watching us. Thank you so very much. And if we missed your questions, I'm sorry. Sometimes if you have questions, just keep posting them till we see them, because the chat moves by so fast that we can't see it. So don't don't be afraid to ask two or three
The
times
dive
and think that we're not looking there for your questions. So, but anyway, thank you again,
Okay.
Colin. Thank
right.
you,
Bye,
Brenda.
everybody.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dixon, Jim, Kilroy. Listen, if you're too darn busy to get out in your shop and make some sawdust, you're just too darn busy. Just give me sawdust, lots of sawdust all around me and everywhere. I like it flying all around my shop and even in my beard and hair. Good night,
And
everybody.
I'll take it for Chris. You can't
Thanks, y'all.
stay here, and you can't go home because they don't want you.
We live long and prosper.
Close
Good night,
enough.
everybody.
He said,
Thank you for watching and God bless.